I've been researching Indonesia.
Right. Well, there's a couple of reports in the last day, YouTube initially banned YouTube, and then people saying YouTube. I learned more about the world through YouTube.
My granddad. Where's Rob?
Well, welcome everyone. It's a good mob we've got here. I want to start by acknowledging that we're on unceded Wurundjeri land, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. And when doing that, I like to also spend just a little bit of time with mind games, and one of the mind games I like to play is just try to imagine what outside looked like 200 years ago. And that's probably not that hard to imagine because we've all got some connection with the bush. We can imagine the bush. But a more interesting mind game to play, I think for me, is to imagine what it might look like outside if First Nations people had a greater say in what happened in the last 200 years. I just want to say that today's been organised by Whitehorse Friends for Reconciliation with the financial help from Whitehorse Council, but the most important contributor to me is the Whitehorse Uniting Church. Now, first impressions are important. My first impression of this group is that they're incredibly welcoming, friendly, supportive, and terrific to work with. So thank you very much to Joe and all the other people connected with Uniting Church. There's a couple of things that I've got to mention. One is that there's afternoon tea after this. Uncle Shane will be talking for as long as he wants to talk. And there'll be a Q&A, and people can ask questions from the mic over there. And then there'll be a afternoon tea organised by Whitehorse Uniting afterwards, so you're welcome to stay for that. Also, if there's a fire, the exits are there and there. These are the sort of things you've got to mention these days. And if you want to go to the toilet, back through the far door that you came in, turn right, and you go through the glass doors and immediately left. There are some toilets there. Okay. So that's covered that. A couple of years ago, at my 80th birthday, I said that for the last 25 years, First Nations people have been messing with my mind. And they've been messing with my mind in a good way, because I now no longer see how I should be being and thinking and behaving on this planet as I did when I was 60. Okay, I see the world totally differently. A couple of things on that journey. There's many things I could talk about, but I just want to talk about two things today. 2019, the reconciliation groups in the eastern suburbs had put on, in genuine partnership with the Mullamullum Indigenous Gathering Place, which is the local community centre for Aboriginal people in the eastern suburbs. We put on a conference or a one-day forum at Ringwood High School, And the premise of the forum was that the world is in deep trouble. Two scourges of humanity at the moment are inequality and what we're doing to the biosphere. So the world's in deep trouble. I'd actually characterise it as we're in deep shit. But I don't say that in polite company. But we then said, well, let's look at Aboriginal culture and see what ideas that they have that might put our heads in a better place for contemplating the future. So we workshopped 6 ideas. I'll just mention 3. We must look after each other. We must look after each other. What was the other one? There were just take what you need. And what does caring for country? What would caring for country look like in the modern world? So the other event that's got me here today was that in NAIDOC week last year, and by the way, it's a nice coincidence that this is the first day of NAIDOC week for 25. But NAIDOC week last year, I caught up with Uncle Charles and Uncle Shane, and we sort of said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, we're Whitehorse Friends is planning to put on this forum, which was going to be a mirror image forum of the 2019 forum. And he said, I'd like to come along if I'm available. I said, what are you going to be doing? And he said, well, if everything falls into place, I'll be going off to Tokyo to a conference where Indigenous groups from all over the world were meeting. And I said, more people, or we should know about this, Uncle Shane. Yeah. You shouldn't just go off and have this conference and come back and not tell everyone about it. So this is why we're here. Uncle Shane's going to tell us, well, I'm not sure whether it's just about that, but other things as well. He's got plenty of other things to yarn about. So I'll pass over to you, Uncle Shane.
How you doing? Amazing. Before I speak, as always, I must pay my respects to my elders. And when I talk about that goes back to time immemorial, in creation time, over 125,000 years ago, of connection and creations. Stories in this country, so I always pay my respects to my elders, as I've been taught, been flogged into me actually, as a kid. But also pay my respects to our elders today. Yes, we haven't, sovereignty hasn't been ceded. We're crafting treaty with the state government. I was on the assembly for a bit, but I jumped off to do other things, I guess. But always pay my respects to elders, and also the youth. We're leaving a legacy, hopefully, for the future. And I think it's not just our youth; it's for all youth and for the nation. Right? So I always pay my respects to that. I'm Uncle Shane, Charles, born and bred from Shepparton. Spent a lot of time with family, with elders, out on the country. And I guess I'm one of the last, been told I'm one of the last of the great teachings of that way, of that pedagogy, on how we learn and how we transfer knowledge and wisdom. And it's been drummed into me by many elders that any knowledge that I acquire or I'm gifted, I must pass on. You don't keep knowledge, because if you keep knowledge, it becomes useless. And many learnings, I guess, over the years. A lot of the work I've done across government, nationally, working through the likes of Centrelink and Pathways with Swinburne, and worked for Corrections Victoria on a men's facility down in the old Ron jail as programs manager. Then, where did I go? Oh, I went back home to my mum. My sister passed away. Mum was home by herself. So I went home for a couple of years. Oh, this way. No. Is that better? Yeah. There we go. And so I sort of decided, even though I'd been down there 5 years and working with our men, I guess I grew up with 4 sisters, no brothers, 3 daughters and a granddaughter of my own, so I think I needed some men time. That's why they sent me down there. But to watch a young man connect with his culture was profound. To see his face literally change in one knowing who he was, where he came from, with his family, and then connected him to culture was a profound thing. And I guess some of that work was bringing back, taking our people back to culture. And at a facility, there's only one in the country. There should be one in every region. We won an international award for the work we're doing with our men, making change, building stronger cultural men as part of that journey. So I guess, I follow in the footprints of my elders, literally. I guess I remember when Uncle Doug Nichols used to come and pick Nan up for church, and every now and then they'd drag me along to their meetings or drag me along to church and sit down, shut up and listen. That's how I was taught. And it was that way of, always showing respect. And when I talk about our culture, the first law is respect. The easiest thing we can do is pay respects. Right? Now that respect starts in your own spirit. If you don't respect what you got in here, and in here, how can you respect family, extended family, and more importantly, Mother Earth? The second law is acceptance. You accepted law. You accepted people. You accepted what was. The third one was about the relationships. And I guess this is what really captured me over the years. When I moved out here to the east and then started to connect with Howard and the reconciliation groups and the work we were doing in the Eastern Corridor. And it was about the relationships. So we had this relationship control in my culture, where you reach the age of turning into a young man or a young woman, you're separated. Your hormones start to go crazy, we control that relationship. Separated until your hormones settle down and then you're brought back together. But it's also about how we keep that relationship healthy, how we did that. Our elders are profound planners. We have this lens of what country talks to us, and that's the part I love. That's the part I was taught to connect with. With my gaka, my grandmother, Violet Macquarie Bridge, sat me on that Dangala, beside the river Dangala, on my waka, my land, and taught me to see what I couldn't see. She constantly, She taught me to see what I couldn't see, to feel what I couldn't feel, to hear what I couldn't hear. And we would sit for hours and hours and hours. She'd say, "What do you see?" And she taught me that. She taught me the lens, to pay attention to the detail, because that's our encyclopedia. That's our data. It informs us of what's happening now, and it informs us of what's going to happen. And this is connection that we have as First Nations people, where the water in the river is in our veins, and it's like a magnet pulled back the country. I've got to go back to the river to cleanse my spirit, to wash my spirit in that. Right, so that's this whole other relationship that we have with Mother Earth. When I didn't go home for a while, I didn't get out on country. I was doing too much, I guess, working across government. My spirit got weak and got sick. And that was the first heart attack. Went up to see my mum after it, and my mum said, "Son, you look like shit," basically. I said, "Thanks, Mum." She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going fishing. I'm going camping. I'll be back in a couple of days." "Don't go out there by yourself. You just had a bloody heart attack. What's wrong with you?" "I'm all right. No, country will look after me." So when I'm on country, there's this amazing feeling. We talk about belonging. Belonging isn't just a word, it's a feeling. You feel like you belong. I've been to places I've never been, but I know family have, and I feel like I belong. I feel like I've been there before. There's this inherent connection we have. And the other thing my grandmother taught me is that my heart's encased in clay, the Mother Earth, and that's my spiritual connection. Right, when I step on country, I get this warmth. It comes up the feminine side, the left side of my body, and it's an amazing feeling. It's like a grandmother's hug. It really is, and she welcomes me. You know, she tells me she loves me. She tells me I belong. And she greets me with all of her beauty. And then over the years, you know, I was taught that lens of, well, okay, what's that bird telling us? What's that insect doing? When I see the cobwebs float across the sky, floods are coming. I was playing football at Thornton Eildon, and it was in the middle of a 10-year drought. And I said to my teammates, it was 45 degrees pre-season, we were pushing this bloody four-wheel drive around the oval. I looked up and I said to my mate, "There's floods are coming," and they laughed at me for 3 weeks. Then it rained for 3 weeks. You know, how'd you know that? I said, it's just inherent knowledge. You know, the spiders, you don't kill spiders. You're killing your dreams because they're weaving your dreams. We also use the cobwebs on our cuts, which they use in surgery today. We had a cure for every ailment known to us. We had these things. My grandparents always talked, we've got a cure for cancer here. The highest antioxidant diet on the planet. And it hasn't been captured at all. So when you look at our culture, there's this depth of it. Everything is connected to everything. Everything has a relationship out of our totemic system. My totem by the Wurundjeri country is Wurundjeri, the eagle, the creator. My totem for Yorta Yorta is along that turtle. My totem for Yalaka Willem is a pelican. My totem for Doodling Yagan clan of the Yalupna Islands and Yorta Yorta is the emu. I have to look after that totem. It's not just about the totem itself, it's about the environment the totem needs to survive, to ensure that they survive, so we survive. Everything had a place. Everything had a place. And you were part of that. You were taught your place right in the middle of the world we lived in. I went to Arnhem Land for the first time, and I've got that connection through my family, Wurrung. So look at their traditional governance model, to understand how that cultural governance worked. Because I was writing the governance program, so I wrote the cultural modules out of that visit. But it was profound to have been such a peaceful community. I've been out to Wadeye, running workshops out there, and saw the destruction from the managers, what they were doing to the people. This shouldn't happen in 2001. Why is this happening? And then to see that journey through to Nhulunbuy and connect, and the most profound thing was standing at the cafe, and all the kids were there, and Lurapia introduced me. "Oh, he belonged to Wurrung," everybody said, but there was silence. And every now and then they'd laugh. I'm thinking, oh, okay, this feels a bit weird. But when I observed, they were all sign languaging, having amazing conversations, and I'm sitting there going, wow. Once Lurapia said, he said, "No, sign language, look." And I could see him doing all these sign language stuff, and I thought, wow, this is profound. We were able to have a conversation without even saying a word. We jumped in the car and said, "We'll take you down to Shady Beach." and Shady Beach is where they traded with the Indonesian Macassans, which I'm actually going next week to visit them. They came out and my granddaughter and myself did a smoking ceremony for them and connected with them again because I want to rekindle that relationship we had, which was stopped in 1901 when we went to Federation. As well as the Ming Dynasty also was another trader that came. And I saw some amazing pottery and stuff that were brought here that they traded, so I'm looking forward to seeing the Indonesian and rekindling that conversation and yarn. And they want to do more stuff, more connection, build stronger relationship with First Nations people as they had done. 500 BC, 500 years before Cook. BC. So that's, amazing. So my journey is, through what I've done, I follow my ancestors. So with Uncle Doug Nichols, I was doing some work with Lake Tyers community, and the government have been in there 10 years. Government control. They hadn't done a bloody thing. So I said to Natalie Hutchins at the time, she was a minister, and I knew Natalie before she was a minister. I said, Natalie, government have been in there 10 years, what's going on? When are they going to leave? She said, well, that's why I'm having this conversation with you, because I want you to do the work to get it handed back to community. So their community has their shareholders of Lake Tyers Trust. It's the same as Framlingham, it's set up like that. They all were given shares, right? I think the shares are worth probably about $90 each now. Right? So everybody that was on the community at the time got 500 shares each. And then what they hadn't done is upheld the shares register. So I had to find nearly 800 people. I had to find 290 deceased estates and get probate for them. That was a powerhouse of work, but I used the community, used my connections, used Facebook. Where's this one? Where's this one? And then, the blessing in that was it was handed back to them. Now, I followed Uncle Doug because Uncle Doug went down there in March to stop Lake Tyers being closed. So when I talk about I follow the footprints, that's literally I do. I guess from that journey I went back home and then was back out on country. Blessed Uncle Cole Walker, back on country, back in my place. And then, what did I do then? I came back to Melbourne. My daughters lived out here and there. Oh, Dad, come back to Melbourne, Okay, so I got landed at the City of Melbourne as team leader of Aboriginal Melbourne, a new initiative, Goal 9 of the council plan. Wow, was that a journey. But it was Uncle Terry Garwood. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, look, you'll be good to go in there and sort them out. Well, yeah, it was hard work. It was a lot of pushback. One dumb director told me that, Indigenous plants don't grow in the city. I said, don't insult my intelligence, mate. So there was a lot of walls I had to climb over, break through, crawl under. An employment meeting, trying to craft my employment strategy. We're in this meeting and it was going nowhere. And my eldest Auntie Mary Atkinson, bless her, always talked about, we're going in this meeting, and she said, this fella in here is a sheepdog. I'm thinking all sorts of things. He's a sheepdog. What do you mean? He's a sheepdog. She said, that's how he talks, like a sheepdog. And I'm thinking all sorts of stuff. She said, no, he talks like that. I went, what? He said, we're here to talk, but he don't want to talk about the stuff that's in the middle. So, and then Auntie Geraldine turns around and said, yeah, we're going in here to rip him up the guts. That was the old terms and the old talk they used to say. I thought, this is going to be good. I'd only just landed in the educator's position. And it was at the primary school that I went to. So they picked me up and we're going across. We get into the meeting and, oh, God, bless her. Auntie Mary and Auntie Geraldine gave it to him, both barrels, because they'd been back a few times and he wasn't dealing with the issues. It was the same old problems. It was our kids' fault. Well, by the end of that meeting, he turned into a lapdog. And I always think about that and how I activate that in the work that I do, sitting and dealing with people. But I loved, I guess, my time as 6 years of Reconciliation Victoria because it was about the relationships. That very relationship part is how we move forward as a nation. The last law is that responsibility. You always be responsible for yourself, your own spirit, your actions, your words. You are responsible for family first and foremost. Family always comes first. You have a responsibility for everybody on country, and that's a part of that extended family. You know, so the relationship that I've got with extended family. You're part of the extended family. And then it's that keeping that relationship with Mother Earth is vital for my spirit. So I guess, I said part of my journey was 2 years ago. I was living at Armour in Toorak, doing a bit of work with IOFC International, Initiatives of Change, and they have a forum every year in Cove, Switzerland. And we'd had Canadian chief come out, Chief Lee Crowchild, Lewis Cardinal, I had Rainbow, I had Sam, I had four of them, another couple that came out for a week. And they stayed with me when I was living in Toorak. And we crafted the visit to Switzerland as a part of the World Indigenous Dialogue. So I'd love to be a part of it as the Australian First Nations speaker. Now that journey, only Margaret Tucker, Auntie Marge, I remember Auntie Marge used to sit at her feet and she used to tell us yarns and stories, and amazing. There's a book that she wrote, If Anyone Cared. It's a good read. I've read it that many times, it just touches my heart in so many ways, and there's so many memories in it. Now, because Auntie Marge used to live at Armour in Toorak, and originally they were moral rearmament. So she used to live there, and out of there, they helped her set up the Aboriginal Advancement League. But also Auntie Marge took the journey to Switzerland. So I followed in her footprints in that journey. And it was amazing to sit in a room full of people from all over the world. I mean, we had an Indian princes, we had all sorts of elite people in the room, and it was profound to share dialogue. And we all agreed that it's only First Nations people that can save the planet. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. You see Mother Earth, she's angry. You see her unleash. What you put up, she will take away. How do we find that peace for her? If we find peace for her, we find peace for ourselves, for the future. So I'm going back to Switzerland in a couple of weeks, that I found out yesterday. So from Indonesia back home and then to Switzerland. But the next journey that I took after Switzerland was the first time I left my country. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Just put me on a plane. Landed in Doha. Wow, check this out. This airport's the size of Melbourne. And then flew into Geneva, and I'm just there. And then caught the train to Montreux. Got off at Montreux, had a couple of hours to catch the little train up the mountain to the 600-bed palace that was built for an Indian prince. And I'm just there, wow, this is in awe, in Lake Geneva. And I'm walking along thinking, wow, this is just amazing. And when I realised I was actually on the Riviera. I'd never seen that in movies. Anyway, I'm there, and like Switzerland, New Zealand journey was the same, and Japan journey was the same in that on those travels, I didn't stand out. I didn't have old ladies clutching their bag when they seen me coming, or cross the street with their kids, shanghaied their kids across the street because I was Aboriginal. There was nothing like that the first time in my life. That's what I want for this country. To be in that space where no matter who you are, where you come from, what colour you are accepted, you are respected. It's about building those relationships. So New Zealand, wow. Walked the treaty journey of the North Island and saw how it's built capacity for those people in Aotearoa. Wow. How they're one mob, one language, and they're not divided. And I guess, to be honest, that's why I jumped off the Treaty Assembly, because it's going to divide us even more. And then we didn't start with truth-telling ourselves. And as we walked that journey, it showed me the capacity it's building for them. They've got relationships and partnerships with Sofitel and Novotel at the airport, every other business you'll go past. You know, community own that one, they're building their own capacity. They've gifted all their family land to be able to build their wealth. It's amazing. And yet, again, I'd never been, well, in Switzerland and in New Zealand, I've never been so respected. Roll out the red carpet. No, Uncle Shane, come on. And it was, it was beautiful to walk into a shop. You had a young Maori girl or a young Maori lad serve you. Oh yeah, no, we own this business. So that's how you're building capacity. Went to the prison program, like the one, different to the one that I was in down at the old Ron prison, but I was getting to a point of being able to do something like this. So I set up the woodwork shop and the welding shop. I said, these boys are here for 3 months. Let's get TAFE in and give them a ticket. Give them some skills so that when they leave. So we went and visited the prison, one of the prisons, and the prisoners, the Maori prisoners, are building cottages for their elders. Amazing stuff. Not sure whether we'd get to that point of whether people wanted to carve up the land so we can build our wealth. I'd like to think that may be, but treaty will take 7 generations, as the Canadians told me, to really impact. I'm at a Brisbane Council setting up the First Nations unit as First Nations lead. Very different to the City of Melbourne. They can't do enough. But what I'm also doing, we had the Minister come out and do a talk to treaty, on treaty to the multicultural community, and that's gone viral. So I've had 2 yarning circles with the multicultural leaders and community, and we're just sitting around having a yarn, sharing culture, sharing knowledge. Yeah. And it's 2 layers of knowledge that I always talk about. It's that cultural knowledge, traditional knowledge, and then there's this contemporary knowledge. So when I think about reconciliation, there's 2 of those layers. And that it's, it has the cultural foundations, and it has all those parts which make up, the relationship and respect and opportunities for our people. Now just go back to City of Melbourne. So I was getting nowhere with this manager, and then he finally admitted after the meeting, he said, Uncle Shane, we don't know what we're doing. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's like the heavens opened up. The weight fell off my shoulders. Right, I said, next week I'm going, I want 2 staff to come with me. Oh, okay, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to the local Indigenous Employment Networks meeting, which had been running for over a decade. So I took these 2 ladies to the meeting, and I just sat back and watched the relationship form. And they got the penny dropped when they spoke to the non-Indigenous people that were in the room. I was saying the same thing, but they didn't quite grasp it. I don't know. But anyway, Clive rings me up a week and a half later. Uncle Shane, we've got the draft. Oh, okay, this is going to be good. So basically I just plugged them in. Right, there you go. My job's done. You plugged into the network now. They'll be able to teach you all you need to know. So I go into this meeting and I'm thinking, okay, where are we at? What did we land on, Clive? He says, right. He said, we've got the draft, and I'm flicking through it. He said, we've got a target, 2.5%. I'm doing the maths. Okay, 1,700 workers, 2.5%. What does that give me? It'll give me 40 positions in 2 years. Designated, identified and any. For an opportunity to build pathways into council. Now they have a whole floor that is Aboriginal Melbourne. The procurement strategy was 0.9%. That's all they give me. It's pretty lame. I said I was embarrassed with the target. But that 0.9%, they put it up to 1% of the total spend in engaging Aboriginal businesses. And yeah, that was a journey trying to work with finance and procurement to craft the strategy, the Indigenous procurement strategy. I said, no, this is what we do. I said, let's have an expo. Put the call out. We had 50 businesses. And I was getting hit from Aboriginal businesses all over the country for business in the City of Melbourne, whether it was developed, in terms of rail or road or, so we had 50 people. So I went to find out procurement. I said, right. I said, all you people in this room, procurement and finance, you need to get off your ass and get down there and meet these people, build a relationship. And I just stood back against the wall watching. It was beautiful to watch. It really was. And it was as simple as that. So bumped it up to 1%. So that was going to bring into Aboriginal businesses $3.5 million over 2 years. And it was as easy as having a conversation, landing people on a space where, okay, admit that you don't know, that's good. Then we can move forward. So at the moment we're crafting some more discussions with the multicultural community based around, when I talk about that contemporary layer, how they have to jump through the hoops of setting up their governance and how to get their establishment. I went and met with the Sudanese mamas out at Dandenong in a little house. And I walked in and I started crying. I said, this is how we started when I was a kid. It was just a little house. Now we've got a $25 million elder services with palliative care and residential and all sorts of programs and activities and that. Rumbalara, our cooperative, is about a $60 million facility. We have the new education centre up there. They got $25 million off Melbourne Uni to build it, building that capacity. And then, the football club. They're probably worth about, 15 million. But it's been able to build those foundations so we can build our capacity. We can provide those opportunities for our people and pathways in and out of government, in the wider community. So Japan, I got a phone call. I was actually talking to Jason Kelly at one of the assembly meetings down at Portland. He said, I'm going to Japan. Oh, are you? Oh, geez, that'd be all right. He said, you want to come? I said, well, what are you doing over there? And it was with Unity Earth. It was the group that I met when I got to Japan. And it just so happened to be Global Peace Week. I said, this is going to be good. So we fly into Tokyo. We stayed at this massive big hotel. Had something like 1,700 rooms and a massive big waterfall that comes off the top into one of those beautiful Japanese garden with the fish. And I'm just sitting, I can't do any work, I'm looking out the window. But and it was amazing to see all these people that came from around the world to the one spot. But the respect that the Japanese people gave me, treated me like royalty. So we spent 3 days in Tokyo and having dialogue, based around, different people, different speakers from around the globe were talking about what was happening in their country and their fears about, and it was all about peace. How do we find peace? I find my peace when I just go sit on country. When I sit on country, I come back and I feel like I've had a 5-hour massage. That's what country does. That's a connection. That's it. And that's why my mum reckons that. That's why you look so young, because I'm constantly out there. And when that warmth comes up, it drains the worry off my spirit. Now, science is catching up with this, and they will eventually in time. That if you spend more time outdoors, it helps rejuvenate your immune system. Well, hello, we knew that for over time immemorial. So it's vital to connect. But I also, I guess in my people, I said disconnect, and it's trying to plug them back into culture and plug them back in, And it's a national disgrace that you people don't know enough about my people and the culture that we have, The very dirt that you walk on, my DNA is in it. The very water that you drink, my DNA is in it. The smoke, when you go to a smoking ceremony, isn't just smoke, it has a memory. For all of us, it'll take you back to a place when you're a kid. Back in the old days when you had the fire stoves, it takes you back. it has a memory. So it isn't just a smoke. And when I feel that, and it's a cleansing of your spirit, it helps deactivate whatever's going on. When we were kids and naughty, when we stayed on Cummeragunja mission, and we were naughty. I wasn't naughty, my cousins were, but I got in trouble. And they used to light a big fire and hold us over it. My grandfather, my Ganka would say, "You like this?" And I'm looking at her, "What? What do you mean we're like this?" She said, "You're cooking. Your spirit's not straight." And so they could tell what you were. Your body language, they could tell straight away. No, you got something attached to you. Let's get it off you. And that was a process that we used to. So from 3 days in Tokyo was, I guess it was connecting, was bonding with the group. And most of these people were retired millionaires. So they just fly around the world and go to different events and that. So we went to Mount Fuji. Wow, that was a profound journey. And just the way they looked after us, how they fussed over us. Probably got tired of bento boxes in the end. But it was, and I'm thinking, there's a connection here in the way these people are, out of adversity. After the atomic bomb that was dropped. They could have ended the world, but they didn't. Japan is the cleanest place I've ever been. You don't even see a dirty car. No rubbish. You can leave your bags there, go to the toilet, come back and it's still there. Can't see crime, don't see homelessness. It was just, it was like being on another planet for me. Then we toured to Mount Fuji, and what a sight that is. And they all lined up waiting for us. They all greeted us, and we went and did a ceremony inside. First Nations, we went up the back in the bush there. It was just First Nations people, and we did a smoking. And Standing Bear, he's such a Indian. Standing Bear because he's huge. I see why you call it a Standing Bear. Wayne, and he's a writer, but he was also Olympian, not Olympian, but one of America's swim champions. Amazing man. These people were just, there was Pato from Africa. They've been touring the country singing about Ubuntu, what they call Ubuntu. And that means I am because we are. They showed these documentaries, and it was. And then it was actually the award for the Global Peace Award, and actually Japan won it. So we had probably 1,500 people come, right? And it was hot that day, and they all sat on the grass, and on what they call the Fields of Healing at Mount Fuji Sanctuary. And around the flagpoles, they had every flag on a pole represented from the world. That was profound. And I guess what in the passing on the knowledge and acquiring knowledge that I got, we're all heading in the same direction for peace, for everybody. Peace for our families, our cultures, our countries. Then we landed in Hiroshima. Wow, that was the most emotional part of the journey. And we had a global peace concert that was zoomed around the world, and I started it with the didgeridoo. We had Mendahi, he was from Mexico. This is all at Hiroshima. And he played the shell. Standing Bear played his flute. So to open the festival, or open that event, the three of us played on the stage with the didgeridoo, and it was amazing, and it was zoomed into every Japan TV in the country. They didn't know what it was. I had guys trying to buy it off me when I'm walking down the street. But it was that time, I guess, when we sat, we did a smoke ceremony, we smoked the peace pipe, we did ceremony, where we really connected about coming together as First Nations people to walk with the rest of the world. for peace. Once we got to Hiroshima, we had an event where we actually met the last remaining survivor of Hiroshima, the atomic blast. Wow, that was just profound, beautiful lady. We really connected through the interpreter. And she told her story. She said she was away from the impact of the blast site. When it went off, she was running home. She was only about 8 or 9. And when she got to her house, it was disintegrated. And it was when she was 14. And she got all the sores and all the things that from the atomic blast. And she said she was walking along when she was 14 and saw, because they told them that nothing would grow for 75 to 80 years. But she saw a little flower growing in the pavement, and that gave her hope. But just her story, and then from there we went into the museum. You want to see a museum that's just truth-telling, and that flag there you see there is the World First Nations flag that I learnt in Japan. I didn't even know we had one. There's Mandahi in the middle, and Jason Kelly, he's on the assembly, he's a mighty man, which was part of that next journey where they came, we went to Lake Mungo, the cradle of creation. They came out earlier in the year. Yeah, and then we went into the museum and talk about truth-telling, the imagery, it was just so emotional. But yet, they're all about peace. They're all about peace. And they gave us all these gifts, and it's these little dolls the elders made. And it's got a little saying on it that says, "May peace prevail on earth." They said, "No, Uncle Shane, you've got to come back." And went into the middle of the city. There's a forest, and went into the big temple, and came across a Japanese traditional wedding, and it was all this cultural stuff that was filling me up. But I was also passing that knowledge on. And that we'd like to think that we can have a forum here in Australia at some point. I think it may be next year, 2027. 2027. We're calling for a World Indigenous Corroboree at Lake Mungo. We're bringing the world to Lake Mungo, where Jim Bowler found the skeletal remains of Mungo Man. He continues to push back the time of occupancy. His foot is that big. He was over 7 foot tall. And Jim said to me, he said, 100 million years ago, this was just a water planet. Interesting, because they'd found whale remains in the dig. And they found Mungo Lady. Now they're that old, the skulls are opalised. And he'd travelled the world, been poked and prodded in different museums and that, as we are the most studied race of people on the planet. And then he finally came home. Then there was a big kerfuffle about they wanted to put him on display. No, put him at rest. So the elders, in secret, went and buried him, and Mungo woman. So he's returned to the earth. Everybody's happy. And then we're fighting for a big cultural centre to reflect that, because my grandmother said that's a cradle of creation for us. And even when I was in Wadeye, I spoke to the last remaining elder. He said, "You're from the south?" "Yeah." I said, "Yorta Yorta." "Ah, you first people." He said, "We rely on you to talk with the governments, to make it better for us." And yeah, just sitting with the last remaining elder was the most profound experience of my life. And it was about, just sharing knowledge, but also I guess the whole intent was about peace. So I guess, what the things that I've learnt, I share that, The food was profound. Walking down the street with me, Jason, this little fellow on the corner, come. I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here? And we go up this little alley, up this little stairs, and this little restaurant, about the size of this. But the food, I'd never tasted anything. I bought the same menu here. I could still taste the food 5 hours later. Got to go back. But yeah, just to connect with the community. Right. And I just was amazed at how Japan reacted after the atomic blast. It really changed. They have an everlasting flame. It was amazing to stand there. It was just a profound journey. My next journey takes me to Indonesia, to Makassar. I'm looking forward to sharing that knowledge that I have and rekindling those relationships and connection. But also, it's just to see the place, connect with the elders in the community is what my intent is, and share. So moving forward out of Brimbank Council, we're crafting a heap of stuff during Refugee Week. There's a thirst that they want to learn and share. They want to pay respects firstly, and they want to learn and transfer knowledge through the pedagogy and how we learn, through dance, through song, through food. Went to an Ethiopian coffee ceremony. I never tasted coffee like it. It was amazing. The elder was sitting there with their little things. And, so we're building that connection. And my grandmother said, one day we will live in a cultured world. I had to get ready to give them the knowledge of this place, and also to build the relationships, build the understanding. I always hear my grandmother say, it's not rocket science to sit down and have a yarn and a cup of tea. Because they want to learn. And I guess out of the debacle of the referendum, when I was born I wasn't counted because I was born before the referendum. I sort of thought, gee, we're a dumb country. We really are. Robots. But then Australia made their way back through the last elections. Because I was very scared about what was going to happen. I said to the minister, is treaty set in stone? She said, well, to change the government, they can throw it out. I said, well, what's the point? Then, it's one step forward, 2 steps back. That's the government corroboree we have to do. We're going somewhere. As soon as we start to take the next step, rug's pulled out, we don't have funding. That's been the journey. But my lens has always been the culture and sharing it. And then, let's have a conversation about, what do you need? What does your community need help in? We've got all sorts of conversations coming based around the youth. The problem with the youth, I did the smoking ceremony and welcome with Annie Zita for the new chief police. Mike Bush, nice fellow, 40 years in the service. He's a Maori man. And I just said, well, what are you going to change? He said, I'm going to make it right. I said, well, what? He said, no. I said, I'm going to clean the force up for starters. And then he's got some sort of plan to do with the youth. But I've seen the change, I guess, in my time, for the better. The relationship through reconciliation is, people say, oh, it's not working. I say, well, I milk it for what it's worth. I really do. Come on, it's your document. It's not mine. It's not my community's. It's yours. What are you going to do? Show me your magic. Show me what you can do. And I always talk about the cultural intelligence. You either turn it into cultural intelligence or you turn it into cultural destruction, which I've seen happen. And then it's about, well, okay, you learned something. I love the way you work. I need you to teach them, not me. They'll listen. They'll hear you more than they will me when we talk about that journey and what you've learned and how you've been able to build those relationships and your intent. So it's collectively making change. It's not just expecting Aboriginal people to... And it's this cultural load that we have. is draining at times. Not for me because I love it, I guess. It's just a part of me now. You get up next day and keep going, keep moving forward. Run into one wall, it's okay, I'll go over this side. Or I'll go around it, or I'll go to your boss. Working it and milking it to make a difference. And it's the growth that I've seen with non-Indigenous peoples in that space. As well as, along with that, NAIDOC Week is also very centred in that place as well. So now we just had our first, having on Tuesday, our first external NAIDOC event for Brimbank Council. Yeah, and they always had it, but it was only for staff. I said, no, it's our week, not yours. Give it back to community. So we're having a flag raising, and we had an art elements, 5 elements art installation that will be opened as well. So we're starting to build the cultural overlay over the place. I went to a meeting 4 years ago to come in and mediate, because there was 5 pages of issues of the Brimbank Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee with the council. So we sorted those things out. And there was one, and it was because of a mural that was to be painted of somebody that doesn't even live in Brimbank. So we got that changed. Now we've got a beautiful picture of 2 elders on the wall of Uncle Boots Cooper and Auntie Joyce Cooper. And it's a conversation point for community. Oh, who are they? Oh, yeah, Uncle Boots. Oh, yeah. So people are starting to know, and it's building that cultural overlay. Every space has a narrative, every space has a story. I said, yeah, we put Indigenous plants out there, so where's the sign that says what it is? The medicinal, nutritional value. That's a transfer of knowledge. I said, okay. They've arrived. Yeah. Now, where was I going with that now? Let's leave it on. Oh, there you go, worked it out. In every space, but I had to go through 2 pieces of legislation to name something a traditional name. That should be the easiest thing we do. What do you call this place? This is called this. Yeah. But it's jumping through the bloody hoops, but trying to work smarter and easier is. And then now, we've got, because I had no space, I was jumping up and down for 15 years with council for a space. So I came on board, they contracted me on to do pieces of work, and within 3 weeks we found a place. We found a nice little house in Sunshine, which is now called Cooinda Community Centre. So we got that space for 5 years, and I had a meeting last week. I said, well, okay, we've got 5 years. What else are you going to do for me? They said, we'll get back to you. We'll do it's actually in the budgeted plan for council moving forward to build a bigger space for the community. And then, a little committee and Uncle Boots and George said, no, this is going to be a space where all the community can come in. We run programs with them, for them. They can use the space. So it's a real build, I guess, basically out in the west. And there's still trying to get the services out that way to establish themselves even more, so to support community. And we can all, share in that space. Feel like we belong. And watch, these beautiful relationships with the community grow. And those opportunities. Right, so we're actually next year we're going to have a big multicultural, I planted a seed of multicultural art festival, where all the cultures can come together, they can dance, we'll have foods, bring their foods, and all of that. So it's just bringing people together and sharing. And then watch, the magic happen with the relationships and the understanding. And even some of the story. Well, I went last week, 2 weeks ago. I had a citizenship ceremony, and I sitting in the room, and I thought, wow, okay, we got 3. We had 900 people coming through. We had 59 cultures in those group. And yeah, they really want to connect with me, and they work across various things. Obviously, the same sort of framework that's in my community, where you work across organisations and services. They have the same, but it's building, that relationship. So we had Refugee Week. I did a smoking ceremony for them, the first time a lot of them had ever been in one, and they were just, very appreciative and respectful and understood. And it's in that narrative of the smoke and the ceremony itself. And then we had this amazing transfer of knowledge of ceremonies that other cultures have. Okay, yeah, you do that, we do this. There's beautiful conversations. So I guess moving forward, after Indonesia, I'll be back in Switzerland. So it'll be interesting to see what dialogue we're having this time around and where we're heading with it, because I think we're starting to build as a group. And at the moment we're looking for a New Zealand representative, a Maori representative, other representatives, but it's run from Lewis Cardinal he's Cree Nation, so he's sort of driving it. And, there's these and I was sitting there and I was talking to Lewis. I said, you know what? I said, okay, I went there uniting Earth. Okay, here's the other group. Peace Education contacted me more recently. And even I said to Angela, how many of these groups are there around? You're heading in the same direction. Why don't you join forces? Come together. You got peace this or... So many different groups globally. So there's some conversations we're having on the world stage. We're having, being very creative moving forward. And I'd like to think that we can land on some things that, people find that understanding. I think they're even at one point talking about going to Israel to meet with different people. So, that's all. I just jump on a plane and go. That's the fun part, I guess. But it's, it's building a movement. It really is. It really is. First Nations knowledge is well sought after. That's all through government. And finally they want to listen to us. Finally they want to, okay, we get it now. They said, we're doing this truth telling. I said, well, we told them all the stuff. They already know it. Why are we doing it again? And how come we're not doing it? I said, they've got all the data in the world, yet they don't activate on it. I said, everything the government give us, I'll take away. So it'll be interesting moving forward. But reconciliation is, it's actually moved up another level since the referendum, I've heard. There's a lot more interest. I know a lot of the schools and that out in the West, and some of them are doing it, some aren't, but they really want to connect with that. So I still, even though I'm not as co-chair, but I still drive that. I love it. And the other thing too is that I've shone the light on the framework of reconciliation. I said, you can adapt this to any culture. You can embed the cultural knowledge from any race of people. So you can use the same intent with respect, relationships and opportunities. How am I going for days? I could talk for days, guys. God, the world's chasing me. For me, it's I've seen the penny drop, and that's the most rewarding thing for me. When people get it, people understand it. It's not hard. Use it, and it's the courage that people have that are taking that step. And the courage to take the step, find the understanding, respect. It's all those parts that framework of what reconciliation is. And then, the last level, you complete the fourth level of reconciliation, and then everything should be just automatic. Everybody knows how to engage or how to, what cultural safety looks like. How to communicate with our elders, our community, our youth. Any questions? Yeah, if you've got anything, or burning question, there's nothing that you would have asked me, that would offend me in any way, shape or form that has been asked before.
We've got an awful lot to learn. Can you hear that? Yeah, we've got an awful lot to learn from you and from Indigenous people, because you're talking about country and we have no understanding, no proper comprehension of what country is. So can I sort of make a comment about a class I did recently, and we were advised to go into the bush, sit down somewhere under a tree where there's bark and what have you, and sit there quietly, listen for the birds so that your focus is away from other people's noises, and you do not move for an hour. And while you're sitting there, all these creatures start coming out because they trust you. And you see them, and you see a part of life that you otherwise do not see. And we are dependent on that life. And you start to appreciate it and understand this. It supports us. And we whiteys? We whiteys are sort of destroying it with concrete and all sorts of other ways of living. So we need to learn about country, go back to basics.
Oh, definitely, and that's, I guess part of, what reconciliation is creating, especially in education. I know that there's singing in language in preschools, primary schools. There's a shift, there's a change. There's, in the corporate groups that I take out on country and immersion, and that, people don't know anything. They'll go home and ask your kids, because they're more educated than what you are. But it's also, part of that building the cultural overlay where people can go into a space and see something and learn something from it. But also, we've got different businesses that are being set up. We've got the Koori Heritage Trust, where you can go and book in and do a walk along the river, and Rob Hyde will take you and give you that narrative. So the more we can do that. But I said to Bringbank, I said, build me a cultural centre, a museum, where people can come in. And that can be a big multicultural culture centre, where all the cultures can be represented in their cultures and things, but also learn. And generating more opportunities for the wider community to come in. And is this something that you guys as a reconciliation group drive, along with the sites? And just providing more opportunities for people to come. But what you learn, you must take away and share. You don't keep it, and that's the transfer of knowledge. Over time, people know. I said, the old lady sits in that seat for 50 years, and you put a bush tucker plant there, you put the little signs, and she reads, and she thought, oh, I thought that was a weed. I've been killing it all my life. One tells 10, he tells 100. So she passes that on to her little group of friends. The knowledge transfer. And it starts to be shared, and that's how it always should be. So I know, like we did here in Whitehorse, with that amazing project we did with the schools, 900 school kids, got our artists in to do the pavers, right, teach them art, how to do a story on the little clay paver that they were making. I had my students at Pathways come and do the work for Blackburn Lake project, which we put in the Dry River garden bed, bush tucker garden bed. And we did the one at the offices there, where we had a big opening, and the Knack Garden, I think it's still around, is it? I don't know. It is? Yeah. But that was profound, because 19 schools and 900 school kids came to that opening of that event. And that created change. It was beautiful to watch the little kids with their parents come and trying to find where we put their little story. So, simple stuff. I'd like to think they'd be using that garden a little bit more with the narrative on it. But it's that opportunity. So, you know, I'm looking at treaty. There are two layers. One's traditional owner treaty and the other one's a state treaty. So I don't know. There's no other two treaties, two layered treaties around the world. So very sceptical about what that's going to look like. And as the Cree Nation told me, it needs to be at the national level for it to be effective and work. So I guess, you know, when you think about the state treaty, which and it's more about, okay, you've been stuffing, they got the first Yorta report was child protection and Department of Justice. I said, okay, now we have more children taken away, so you fail at. So out of the report, there was 29 recommendations of what we could do moving forward. The government only accepted 4. It's still a fight. But anyway, that's that. You know.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you, Uncle Shane, for your talk and for all the work that you do in so many different areas. Recently, we've had a few incidents of death in custody, of Aboriginal people, death in custody, and they've been pretty horrific. Have you done any work in that area, and what's the sort of way forward? How do we break that cycle?
Oh, look, and that's you know, very contentious, I guess, in terms of deaths in custody. You know, out of all those deaths in custody, not one policeman has been charged. So the system's got to change. And this, you know, the brief chat I had with the new police chief, he's definitely gets it, understands, and you know, we're going to make some real change. So we have the RAJAC, Regional Aboriginal Justice Agreement. Not where the paper is written on. No. We're talking about the same things we were talking about 20 years ago. Why isn't there change? And it's that system we've got to fight against. That, you know, we've got embedded in society is that we need to be incarcerated, we need to be controlled, we need to be locked up. That's that convict mentality needs to go. But also, you know, we're going to know we've got a beautiful facility there that's changing men's lives. And the department's very happy to put it on a world stage and win an award. It's only lip service we get. So, you know, when it's about meaningful, you know, running meaningful programs and diversionary programs to keep them out of the place in the first place. But I had my cousin, he come out and he said, I can't handle this, brother, I'm going home. I said, well, you're going back up home country? I'm going back to jail, institutionalised. He said, I get a meal every day, 3 meals a day, get a bed. I can get new shoes every day if I want. He said, I can get anything in jail. Come out and they're lost. But even with, you know, what they call the stolen generation, people finding their way back to family find it very hard to fit in. But then you've got all the other trauma that we're carrying from colonisation through the generations. So that escape to drugs or, you know, substance abuse, which turns into, you know, family violence. We never had family violence. Part of our culture, wasn't it? We dealt with something bad. A woman was never hit. It wasn't. You know, it was a consensus, sit down, have a yarn, the elders would make a decision on things. So, and it's injecting, I guess, those cultural things. One thing Jeff Kennett actually did, and he was on the board at Beyond Blue, and he always says that he should have done more for our people. But what he did for the prisoners, because they weren't, you know, and there were some great artists that were doing art in prison, and he set up the thing with the torch, right? He said, right, because they weren't allowed to be paid for their artwork. So they set it up that the money that they can get paid for their artwork goes in a trust for when they get out, or their families. Why couldn't you have done something when you were in government? But it's trying, you know, and we have a change of government. It's 2 steps back. We've got to start again. You're going from left to right. That's a big difference to fight against. You know, where we think, oh yeah, we're getting things moving. You know, this is going to be good. But then it's just, it just seems to go around and around. So we'll keep chipping away. That's all we can do. you know, and work with different ministers and work, you know. You tip something upside down, you find the truth. So it's just deconstructing or reconstructing something that will work, and it's through the cultural lens of First Nations people, not the colonial lens. Is the difference. How can we? When I had the pathway kids, they'd come in on Monday and they were feral. You know, who knows what they'd been on over the weekend and everything. I said, right, first thing we do is get out in the country. Take them outside. Yeah, we go down the river. Change just like that, instant. Spirit deactivator, whatever's going on in here settles down. But using other stuff. So, you know, we go into jail and do, but it's the police themselves, right? And not to say all police are like that, but you know, you see some of that horrific footage of people that were, you know, bashed under, you know, in front of a camera, and then yet, you know, he dies in the cell, like my cousin, Tanya Day. Right? She was ill. I left her there. Ignored her. And she passed away in the cell. Nobody got charged. So the system really has to have a good hard look at itself, right? And be informed by First Nations people. And then let's craft, co-design something together that will work. Well, we've got, a little sort of minimum sort of centre up there in Shepparton. It's the old Darwin Jail. Or next to there, where we've got our own little space. They could, rather than go to jail, they go there and stay there. It's only the petty little stuff. But how do you reach the hard ones? How do you reach the ones who are institutionalised? Sometimes there's no hope, but the government really has to. Look at the report, the Department of Justice, the Yorta report, and the things that I read the first 2 pages. I had to stop reading. I couldn't read. It just brought up too much trauma. Because I was thinking of different families that these things happen to my family. So, we've really got to sit down and nut out why did they die in jail? Whose fault is it? My cousin, he was in jail most of his life and he came out and he had a heart attack. And I said, what does that say about the diet? The jail food killed him in the end. So it's a whole, taking them out of that colonial space so they can be themselves, they can connect with culture, and watch the change there.
Actually, I've got a question, Uncle Shane. It's about assimilation, and I know assimilation is a dirty word in Aboriginal community. Being told that your culture is ancient and no longer relevant, and you must be like us. And when I'm thinking of assimilation, I have these mind games that I play involving spectra. So you'll have to bear with me. Imagine a spectra where we think of the things that we believe in on how we should be on this planet. One end of the spectrum. Western capitalism, we focus on individuals, individualism, individual rights, individual independence. The other end of the spectrum is Aboriginal cultural focus on community. Everything you do is sort of towards or for the greater good. Another spectrum I think of is how we think is the most effective way of acting. We think competition, Western culture. We think competition is the best way of getting results. Aboriginal culture, collaboration, cooperation. Another spectrum is around consumerism. One end of the spectrum, Western culture, consume everything you want, everything you can see and touch. Aboriginal culture, just take what you need, and our relationship with the natural world. Western culture is, what can I extract from Mother Earth? What can what sort of profits can I make from it? How can I exploit it? Whereas your connections are incredibly deep and based around knowledge and so on. when I think of those four, and there are others as well, I think that we should be assimilating. I think we should moving towards the way you think about being in the world. So when I think of assimilation, I think of white fellas assimilating to black fellas rather than the other way around. What do you? Two questions. One is, have I characterised Aboriginal culture correctly, accurately? And what do you think about that idea that we should assimilate more to your way of thinking?
Absolutely. From this day forward, you're all brothers and sisters, and you're all black. Some are dark black, some are... Oh, look, and it's, you know, and I guess, you know, reconciliation is sort of indirectly doing that. Definitely. But yeah, no, I like your thinking, Howard. Oh, the cogs are turning now. I don't have a new thing, but yeah. But I guess I'm doing that in terms of just having yarns and circles, and, you know, when I meet people at events or go and do a welcome, a smoking, or, you know, play the didge. But it would be good to frame that up, actually. Let's talk. Yeah. More work. No, but you're right, it is. You know, come on, let's sit down and right, you're coming in here, like, welcome to country, right? My uncle sort of put it, right, come into my house, you're welcome. There's usually a welcome mat, yeah? On the door, sign on the door or something, right, come in, all right, welcome. Right, don't put your feet on the table, don't drink mum's milk, because she needs that for her tea, don't go in the girls' room, right? Your room's here. So there's an explanation of what that is. You know, people don't actually explain that. So when you welcome somebody to country, you've got to pay all those respects. Right? Because we have the same framework of law, but your law might be a little bit different. But, you know, there's these things that we just didn't do because they weren't even in your head to think about it. But it is about, you know, that's probably next level stuff, Howard, I think. It really is. I mean, all the immersion, I was taking Melbourne uni students out on country for a week, up home in Barmer and around Shepparton and along the river there, telling them the story, and there was every group. When they came, got off the bus out on country, I said, you're going to go home different. You're going to go home with new eyes, new ears, you'll think differently, and you'll speak differently. And it was just about the culture. Leave the deficit on thinking on the bus. So today you've got a cultural lens. Right? I'm going to teach you how to look through it and what I see and how it's informing me. But I guess that respect part is holistic in everything. You can't go over there, don't go over there, because there's women's side. There's women's burial end up that end, men up this end. Can't go there. And when I look at my culture, we're breaking law every day against the grain of that assimilation. So first of all, it was eradication. Then it went to assimilation, because they had to turn all those little black people into white people. They thought we'd all die out, but we're still here. And now we're going to self-determination. And I remember my grandmother, we don't even know what self-determination is, because we just want to go back on country. So yeah, it is. But look, people are finding that, and there's, you know, the World Wide Web and everything else is, you know, there's so much knowledge out there, and it's arming yourselves with knowledge. So you go in a community cold, you'll come out cold. Yeah, do a little bit of homework. So I said to the reconciliation group the other day, I said, jump on there and have a bit of a look around what other councils are doing in the reconciliation space, rather than me have to tell you. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Lisa. I was interested to hear, so your experiences in the Melbourne City Council versus your experience at Brimbank Council, and here we're in the City of Whitehorse. I'm curious about what do you think the prerequisites are that we need to do in community to get in a better position as community to actually build on reconciliation? Because it sounds to me like there are some different building blocks there.
Oh, look, there is, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you look at, you know, reconciliation as a framework and as a driver of change, right? And that's what my dad said, you know, reconciliation is white folk business. So, you know, it's more about, well, okay, what are you going to do about it? Not me to do. I'll walk with you at times. You know. And, you know, City of Melbourne, well, actually started, didn't we, with City of Whitehorse, in my connection with local government, probably for the first time. And it depended on the people that were there, the managers, the directors. We had, you know, some great people that really drove it. You know, we got the 2 projects off the ground, you know, funded that. And there was a lot of activity happening, but then they leave. So for us, we've got to educate again, we've got to start again. It's always that journey. Even with where I am now, I've got Wendui is a lady I've been working with for 4 years. She's a Brisbane councillor, she's now my manager, but like, you know, we were there having a conversation and I said, you know what, this is so easy with you, Wendui, because she gets it. You know, she wants to make a difference in anything. And it's about you know, bringing back and co-designing. You know, that's what I'm sort of talking with the bring back. We're on the volcanic plains, the grasslands. You know, where's my kangaroos? Very important for the kangaroos. The 6 essential grasses. There's all this knowledge that, you know, we're starting to build those overlays and bring that knowledge back and in your face where you can see it. You've got to learn from it. You know? And, you know, it's that acts of decolonising. But that's the journey of my people. Depends who's in the driver's seat, depends who's in control, as to how much they want to do, you know. Whereas, you know, council had goal 9, but yet the organisation wasn't ready. Oh, very ambitious, we want to do this in 2 years. No, you're not. I said to the CEO, Ben, at the time, I said, no, mate. He said, you've got a lot of ambition, but no, that's way down the road. You're way ahead of yourself. There's no budgeting, there's no nothing. So how do you think you're going to achieve this in 2 years? Just having the conversations and being able to have, what was your reconciliation budget like? To make that change, so I can make the change. Not have to beg, borrow, beg for money to do a project for community, for the whole community. So yeah, pending who's in the room at times. And yeah, Brisbane Council, I've got every single councillor on board and the mayor are kicking goals because they want to do stuff. And they want us to walk with us, but also the rest of the multicultural community as well. You know, and then I guess it's building that capacity within the organisation. You know, I said getting the organisation out in community as well, building those relationships is a big part of it. You know, when people land on a spot where they, oh yeah, I've got sort of an understanding now, or I know the protocols, I can't, and still sharing that. So when I said, you know, when we're bringing new people on board, are we having a reconciliation conversation? Are we finding out what they know about it, if they're committed to it? Because if they're not, there's a door. Because you signed on this dotted line of reconciliation plan. That's my big step. And in one meeting I said, if you're not committed to it, I just ripped the document up. Oh, okay, they got it. But, you know, there's the pushback that really, you know, changes. Depends on who's in there, depends how, you know, whether they got any, I don't know if there's any Indigenous workers in City of Whitehorse. You know, Howard? Anyone? Two. Now that was 25 years ago. There should be more that I was out here. Anyway.
Well, just before we go, Uncle Shane, I wanted to show people, we're talking about walking together towards the future, which is very much part of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, walking together. And here's an object which has us walking together. There was a member of Whitehorse Friends came up with the idea of, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could combine the ancient idea of a message stick with the modern idea of USB. So we asked Uncle Shane to make us a message stick, which he did in this beautiful box.
Old school pencil case.
Here it is, the message a message stick. The only difference is this one is hinged, it opens, and inside there's a USB. So we've combined modern technology with ancient technology, and what we did was we'd offer it to schools in Whitehorse. Quite a few schools took up the offer. We'd say, look, if you've got some work your students are doing on Aboriginal studies, reconciliation issues, you can have the message stick for a week, put their work on it. We'll take that work via the USB to the ANTAR website, and it can be put on the website. Well, that worked quite well, except the trouble is, as you know, with websites, it's hard to find material. You've got about six taps of a key before you actually get to where you want to go. So we're hoping to create a website dedicated just for the reconciliation message stick. And we call it we had a problem with this message stick. White fellas carrying a message stick around, that doesn't sound right. So we went to Auntie Joy Murphy and said, we've got this problem, what do we call it? And she said, you can call it a reconciliation message stick, because everyone knows that reconciliation is white fellas' business. So it's a nice way of dealing with that, the problem of how do you combine these two technologies. Yeah. So that was Uncle Shane's piece of work. In actual fact, it was 2006, because when we talk about, oh, when did you do that? It just sort of seems like 5-10 years ago. It was actually nearly 20 years ago now that we've had that, yeah. So I thought you might be interested in... Oh, sorry, you wanted to answer.
Sorry, I'm Tarragon, Joe's daughter, and I was just wondering if you had any suggestions that the youth could do to break the cycle of oppression, because while now we're taught about the massacres that happened, we're taught that in school now, there's still a culture of racism, and so I was wondering what you thought the youth could do.
You know what? You know what we need? Have we got one? A reconciliation youth group? Sound good? Yeah. Oh, look, and I guess, there's so many different youth groups out there doing all sorts of different stuff. My advice would be to find a way to bring people together from those groups, and then collectively you co-design something moving forward, a framework or opportunities or programming or conversations or a movement. That's your job. To make a movement for the youth, because reconciliation is ageing, isn't it? And people aren't getting any younger, so who's going to take over the baton in terms of reconciliation? But it isn't just about reconciliation with my people, it's reconciliation with everybody. And it starts with a conversation, and it starts with arming yourself with knowledge. Okay, what do you know about the youth space? What do you know about the issues, the problems? Really unpacking that, I guess, and then out of that you might find some answers to what you can do moving forward, but slowly build that into, because I would love to see, and maybe through Narragansett, the education part of our Reconciliation Australia could be an opportunity to tap into that, because a lot of the education institutions are tapping in. So you've got like a cohort there in education that you connect into, see what's happening around the place, who's doing what. So a bit of background stuff, and then something like it. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, well, that may bring us to an end. Well, it's not to an end, just an end to today's session. A continuing journey, I'm sure. You've given us a hell of a lot to think about, and actually one of one of the bits of your presentation which moved me deeply was that silence that accompanied your observation about how, comparing how you've been treated in Australia with how you were treated overseas. Yeah, that brings a tear to my eye, actually. Yeah, but you gave us a lot more to think about in terms of the future, and that's what I'd like to focus on. We've got, I can remember Les Chessels, who was a manager, ex-manager of the Gathering Place. We used to talk about, you know, how much we've got to do, to think about the past, to think about the current situation, and to think about the future. And we used to joke that it's possible because we can walk and chew gum and rub our tummy and pat out the top of our head at the same time. And I think that's sort of what we have to do with our relationship, you know, working out our relationship with between Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people. Yeah, it's a tough gig. But
look, it is.
It's
it
worth.
is. So 8 months ago, me and my nephew go down to Toorak Village to the supermarket, and he's standing there. He's got the Aboriginal flag on his t-shirt, and then this old lady coming out, and she had more gold than Mr. T, and she's wearing that little trolley thing, and she looks up, she goes, nearly had a heart attack on the spot, saw his t-shirt, and she, you're a long way from home. Still a lot of work to do. And I thought, don't give her, don't, and he's going, love, I am home, and that's all he says. He was graceful in that, so, you know,
but the rewards will be worth it, yeah.
Oh, look,
and look, thank you very much for today's presentation, Uncle Shane, and I'm sure you'd like to all thank him in the normal way, yeah.
And yes, this will be the first of many. But yeah, happy to have a yarn or advice.
Okay,
or
you're invited to afternoon tea at the back.
Right, before you go, I want to tickle your spirit. I got to tell you, yeah, I bought this on purpose. It's actually plastic, but when I travel, right, because you know it's got to go through customs and is it anyway, and it's a great sound. But when I went, you know, I took it to Japan for the first time. Anyway, coming back, I was met at the airport by 8 security, right, and my thing had all these red stickers all over it. I had it in a bubble wrap, and they're all standing there like this. Oh, here we go. No, I've got no contraband or nothing like that. I don't. Yeah, no. I thought, what? And I'm thinking, I bet it's a dig. Anyway, get up there. Oh, yes. Is that a dig you do? Yeah, mate. Yeah, why? He said, oh, is it treated? And there was I paused for about half a minute. I looked at him and I said, mate, he chucks my bag in through the X-ray machine and we carry on luggage and picks up the dig and he's going, gee, that's light. I said, mate, it's plastic. The other guys just looked at him, shook their head and they walked off. So that's why I bought the plastic one to travel with. But I'm going to tickle your spirit. Class is the hardest instrument in the world to play. Combination of breathing in and out at the same time, moving your tongue, vibrating your lips, sounds from your voice box, and I'm breathing from my diaphragm, not my lungs. that my spirit goes back home. I was sitting on the river by a fire, ready to catch a fish. I just tickled the spirit. Thanks for the opportunity, people, to come today, Howard, and still love the great work you're doing. And we just still get up the next day, and let's see what else we can create and co-design and provide those opportunities for the rest of the community in this space. Yeah. And goodness, thank you. Oh.